013
8H.
8H. 138H. Okay. Okay. So for the for this subcommittee, we actually have we have we have six of us who are on the committee are here. So, and that's myself, Petusek, Ammon, Herbert, McAleer, Spear. Okay. So Representative Ammon, second by Representative Spears, moves ought to pass as amended on the amendment 0138H. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Question?
You do have a discussion. Yes.
In terms of gold, I know gold is easily bought and sold on the commodities market.
Yep.
Right.
Um,
You have to use the microphone. Sorry. Not paying attention. You got to
I
pull it
understand-
closer.
I understand the gold is traded quite, a lot of it. But I came across or somebody told me that our gold standard, the gold that we already have, and it's in the Treasury, I guess, the United States Treasury.
In Fort Knox.
It's Fort New York, I think. But it had a stated value. In other words, it's not traded. And so I was wondering, I think Trump actually, I think that's what got me interested. Trump said he wanted to raise, put that gold into the market, and because it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times above the bookkeeping on the government that our gold is. It's exactly what happened with FDR. I mean, FDR had the gold was like $32 an ounce or something like that, and then he lifted it.
No, there's
Right.
another.
And that's how he raised
Not
cash.
that I'm any expert on this issue, so Keith, you'll help me out. But my memory was that, yes, we used to be on the gold standard, okay? And he took us off the gold standard. But yet the gold is still on our balance sheet so that it represents to anyone who is concerned about investing in the dollar or exchanging the dollar, that yes, we do have a hard asset behind it, but it's obviously not transferred. It's not, it's just nothing else. It's security. It's collateral.
I just thought that Trump said that on the bookkeeping.
I
end,
really pay
it
little
was
attention to what
X
he says.
dollars,
I'm
and it's
sorry, I just
way
don't pay any
beyond-
But it's
attention to
got
what he
nothing
says.
to do with this bill, right?
We have learned already that he says
We're
things
talking
and
about
hasn't really
our own
thought it
treasury.
through. But yes, Representative Hammond.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the gold that we have for the government, it's statutorily defined as $42.22 an ounce.
Okay.
And the market value is $2,900. So the Treasury is treating the gold as much lower value because of statute was put in 1973.
Got it.
And that the actual market value was
Way over.
multiple times that. So
Right.
So I was just wondering, what's the impact, if any, on this particular piece of legislation?
The impact is that the state treasurer has to rationalize investing in gold.
Well, the
That
treasurer,
she has to explain it. She has some explaining to do. But that the fact that the federal government has a lower list price, but it's actually exchanging on the open market at a much higher price, that just has nothing to do with it. It just shows you that we're undervaluing. The federal government is undervaluing that collateral.
so we're obviously going to be trading at the market.
There's something that needs to be said. When we were in with the treasurer talking about this, she said, you can write what you want in here, and that gives her tools to work with. But she's got a board of directors, and she's got evaluation services like Standard & Poor's,
Moody's, yeah.
that she's not going to move on any of this. This is not telling her to actually invest in gold. This is saying sometime in the future, if it looks like a good investment, go ahead.
And if Moody's changed his attitude towards it.
But it's
That's my
not-
question. I just,
Right.
I knew there was a discrepancy.
I'm glad you brought it up and.
We would have
and
to
now
buy
that- And I've learned something new today.
We'd have to buy it at market value, so the statutory price.
We would not be able
Yeah,
to,
maybe
I'm
we
pretty
could
sure the
ask for
federal
$42
government's not
for
going to sell
Yeah,
it to us for
we could only
$42.
get it for $42.
They're not selling. There's no for sale sign on Fort Knox. Okay. No special this week. Okay. Okay. Is the question, are we ready to vote now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor about to pass on the amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. Okay, Representative Ammon. Representative Spear. Seconds to pass on the amendment. All the- As amended, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and Keith, this means you're gonna write the blurb, and please have it ready before we do it next, 2 weeks. We're, the 5th. Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Who's on second?
next up, 639.
Okay, can I get my sheet just for a minute?
You can
I'll
have your,
give it back to you.
I don't need it anymore.
Okay, 6:39, there we go.
Okay. All right, 639. So Representative Ammon has passed out an amendment. He just passed it out, so hopefully you have one nearby you.
0445.
0445. Okay. So what's in here? What are we left with? Yeah. Right. So, why don't you give us the global? What globally did you remove from this bill? Mike,
In talking to folks about the private key aspect, we decided that it was best to just remove that from the bill instead of bicker over it. So that's been deleted, the whole private key thing. I took out 2 definitions. So one is home digital asset mining. I took that out. And private key, those 2 definitions were no longer used. Let's see. 39V2. Is that page?
holding and use of private digital currency, on page
Yeah,
3.
Where's that on the new? Page 3.
Right, so this is what, the holding the currency, okay, so right now, we were just
359B.
mentioning, on page 3, we
Yeah.
have on line 6 is the holding and use of private digital currencies. Did we change anything in that paragraph?
No, that's the same.
Okay, so the paragraph we did change is started on 14.
That's right. It's line 21 on page 3 on the amendment,
Right,
or line 22. So that's the new language that we discussed. No state or local government agency or subdivision thereof shall set a specific limit on sound decibels generated from noise, including digital asset mining, other than the limits set by the political subdivision and any local noise ordinances. And then we so this is based on feedback. This is based on feedback from the municipal association. John, you'd asked me to reach out to them.
Right.
They took a look at it. Even though the
they-
fiscal note said they looked at it, they said they didn't see it. So now they have. And they suggested striking some things, which I took out. There was an old number B that had to do with specific limits of decibels. They said that wasn't needed. And the line that says, it's line 24, that used to be much longer, so now it just says impose any requirement on digital asset mining business. That does not equally apply to all industrial zones. There was something about a positive incentive for encouraging staking, and they said municipalities don't have a way to incentivize things, so that was superfluous. And then I took out making a zoning change to an area with the digital asset mining business without conducting all required notice and hearing procedures. They said that has to be done anyway. We don't need to state it. And then there was another thing, notwithstanding RSA 677 or any related provision of law, talked about the court shall prohibit any zoning change if the change was made to determine against a digital asset mining business. They said that's not needed either. So that section's probably half the size that it was.
Question, Keith, what
Yeah.
about the use of electricity? Is it,
That's later on in the bill. That's discriminatory rate. Let's see. So discriminatory rates is defined in the definitions.
Okay, there's the definition. So where's the reference to it in the statute?
It is new number 4. I just have a lot of redlining I'm going through here.
Right.
It's in that same section we were just reviewing.
I assume.
Should be the next. It's line 26 on page 3.
So rate schedule for digital asset mining creates a discriminatory rate for digital asset mining businesses. Right.
It just clearly says that the rates have to be the same, market
Right.
rates,
You
right?
can't just pick that business and say you're going
Right.
to have a higher rates.
Then the right to private keys section was removed. And
Right. As I told you, it was easier to just get rid of the whole paragraph and give that charge to the Oversight Commission to rethink that piece. Representative Herbert.
I
that's
have
the
a
changes.
I probably missed this, but are we going to have a regulatory division that is specifically, is Commerce going to be the regulator here, this committee? Or is it going to be the treasurer?
Well, in terms of which paragraph of the bill you're talking
Yeah, the-
about?
Well, this is a whole currency thing, and
Where
I'm
do
just
you see
wondering who's
currency?
going to be.
Well, the
Bitcoin
holding and
is a
use of private
currency.
digital currency is just simply that no state or government agency would restrict it. So who's the enforcer of that?
Well,
If
I
some,
would like to
if
know
some
where the
local government
regulatory
does it,
structure is.
someone can take them to court and say they violated.
Well, is that
chapter.
the someone division of the government? I mean.
Well,
I'm-
you,
I wanna
Attorney
know-
General,
I'm
Attorney
not-
General's
I'm
office.
not at
Yeah,
all-
I would either Attorney General or banking. It counts on what was the nature of the situation that government tried to pass
Well,
that
banking would
resolution.
Come in under commerce, under this
Yeah.
committee.
That's
there's
true.
no-
We
but
would get
there's
that.
no- but is
And
there
also
a
the Attorney General's
banking-
and Consumer Protection comes under this committee.
Oh, okay.
So yes, we are the regulator of the statute.
Okay,
Squeeze all over there.
which really frightens me. But,
you're on it.
but I was just trying to figure out if they were going to have a group of experts in Treasury or in the government full-time who are monitoring. And you would, if you had a problem, that's who you would go to.
Well,
just
I
wanna know
guess
who's
you have to
gonna
which
regulate
section of the
this.
bill you're talking about. But the section we've been talking about right now,
Yeah.
where it says no state or local government agency.
Just
No state or
removed a
local
bunch of
government agency. No state or local government agency. That's written 3 times.
So
That
there is no
means-
regulating.
In that case, that if some state or local government tried to do what this says you can't do, you would sue them. They would be sued. that were, well, actually, their legal beagles would tell them, don't do it, because it's illegal. So it wouldn't happen.
All right, to me, that sounds like you're not being regulated.
What we are saying in these particular pieces, that you have to remember what the purpose of this bill is. And I would say on the face of it, I generally am not for prophylactic legislation. I use that word because that's what Neil Kirk taught me to use. Okay. Some people call it proactive. Some people call it proactive. At any rate, normally I don't do that. I usually wait till the plane crashes and then figure out, how to solve it.
So why are
it
you
doesn't
doing
happen.
it now?
Because after this whole debate around zoning right now and how the state is now stepping in and trying to tell cities and towns what to do, okay? And I don't agree with that, okay? Because they delegated that authority that really, if the state didn't want to do that or they should have done it up front. And that's what this bill means to me, is that we're saying right now, ahead of time, that do not treat digital currency, don't treat blockchain mining as different than any other zoning regulation when it comes to utility and it comes to noise. That whatever new noise ordinance you want to pass in your town, it's got to be fair and proportionate and not targeting digital currency. And that's the reason why I'm in support of this bill. Okay, Representative Burrows.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't think we went over it, but so, when you have too many air conditioners on, the system can crash. So what's to protect, a neighborhood or an area for their, too much utilization of electric power?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, just like any other large load would have to, likely get approval through the PUC process, if they need large interconnects for large amount of electricity, but also like the rates themselves, right? So you kind of have to break out of like the scarcity mentality that using electricity is a bad thing. Using electricity incentivizes the creation of more distribution, more generation, right? And so over time, the system corrects itself, right?
Follow up though, okay, but, I live in a big apartment complex and, it's a really hot day, everybody's got their air conditioner on and it goes kaput. So I'm gonna be concerned about the same thing
Yeah.
with this. And, is it gonna impact my ability to run my air conditioner, to run my computer and all that kind of stuff? I think. and
Yeah,
it
I
is-
want to weigh in on this. one.
Okay.
Okay, and that is what I know about utilities. Okay, and that is you hear all the times about rolling blackouts. Okay, you hear about how they're actually telling people to turn off devices. Okay, now that clearly that's voluntary. They're telling you ahead of time to do that, but it's really voluntary. What I would say is in terms of how a utility monitors and making sure that there's plenty of power. Okay, there is the base rate, the rate for the consumer rate. Okay, and then you have the corporate business rates. Okay, but then you're right now that buying that wholesale power is different. Each one of our bills can be different. Okay, you can be signed up for a different power producer than I'm signed up for. But in any case, the utility is uniquely paying attention to temperature rises, to variations, to making that prediction and ensuring that there's enough power, going to be enough power so that they don't have to. It's not a power breakout problem. It really is not a power breakup. And I have to say, but I just got to throw this humorous aspect in that, is that even though my wife says I snore too much, and we do have a noisemaker, I have a noisemaker. Right now, her noisemaker of choice is the air conditioner. And we run it in the wintertime at night. I'm telling you, we have the noisemaker, but she wants that AC, and because it also drops the temperature in the room. She just loves that thing. So the irony is that ACs really are a good, so there's a seat up here for you. So
And so, may I say one thing just in response? What's interesting about digital asset mining is it can be a very large load, and then in a few minutes, it can turn down to almost nothing, right? So it's a variable load. And what that does through the price signals in the electric grid, it uses extra electricity. So when electricity is cheap, they're running. When the price goes up because there's too much demand, they shut off and they sort of absorb the extra capacity on the grid. So that's something that people don't quite understand.
I think that one of the things that this bill does is it tells,
Okay.
Yeah, it's, right, we're still here.
right, I'm just
That's why I'm
I'm seeing all these people enter the room. Okay, okay, no problem, no problem. You are on this subcommittee, okay, and I'm just missing a couple Republicans, so you're on now. Just trying to keep it fair and balanced. Okay, so we have Hunt, Petusek, Ammon, Walsh, Herbert, McAleer, Spear, and Salvi. All right. So, any other questions about this amendment?
I would like
I
to make.
think one of the
point.
things that I see that's kind of good about having something like this is it gives local communities what they need to aim at.
Right. Exactly.
And they can say, well, all right, from now on, our noise level in this town is going to be whatever. It actually gives them the tools they need to say, I better start aiming at some of this stuff. Not that I would ever do anything like that, of course, but some
Right.
people might.
No, I think it's good giving them guidance. It's a good thing. Okay,
I-
Representative Herbert.
It's, it'd be very obvious, but, Bitcoin is quite volatile in terms of its pricing in the market. And, so I'm questioning, what might be the impact of, paying the electric bill for the. for
Who's
the-
saying you're,
For the miner.
no, they still got to pay in dollars. This is not giving them an opportunity to pay their electric bill in Bitcoin.
Okay, it's totally distinct. It's going to be $1.
It's going to be
It's gonna be
dollars.
$1, yes.
Okay.
Their electric bills cannot change. That's the whole point. It can't be discriminatory. It can't be different. Yes.
I left one thing out of the things that we removed from the bill, and it's just coming to me. The blockchain-based trusts section
the
is
trust section.
removed. And I think we'll put it in 310 to study it. I think it's a great idea, but it just needs a little more fleshing out. We'll get some experts talking about it. So,
Okay, good. Okay, Representative Ammon. Second by Representative Spear. Moves ought to pass on the amendment. Number 0445H. Any discussion on the motion of ought to pass on the amendment? Seeing none, all those who agree, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those opposed? Okay. 0445.
H.
And put your computer on silent.
Yeah.
You don't have it on your keyboard? You have the microphone speaker over there? Okay. The motion now is Representative Ammon, second by Representative Spears, moves ought to pass as amended. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, 7 to 1.
I would make about this one.
It's hard to hear you.
Oh, one comment I would make about this one. It really doesn't have anything to do specifically with Bitcoin or anything like that. It has to do with the technology of blockchain, which can be used for almost a lot of stuff. I've seen it used for a lot of different things. So I think you have to open your mind a little bit about the fact that it's really not aimed specifically at Bitcoin in any way. Well, that's true.
Okay,
All right, 451, we need an amendment.
okay, paint program. All right. So I do have an amendment, but it's in draft form at this point because this was a last minute production. 1, 2,
2, 3,
3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
4, 5. Okay, one for me. All right. All right, so this is being passed around. As you remember in the public hearing, the discussion was around the fee,
the fee, get rid of that.
the infamous fee. And I take full responsibility that what I was offended by was that this fee assessment would be, I guess some states thought it was important that it be on the invoice. Other states didn't, but at the end of the day, the whole idea of the fee being involved and what the fee is, and we were putting in statute what the fee was going to be, that was an anathema for me. And what really, what I guess what goaded me more than anything else is the fee, which is initially the paint manufacturers were supposed to project what the fee will be, that what their fee would be based upon what they think they're going to sell, and they give this money over. And where does this money go? Well, it goes to their subcontractor, who is going to organize who's going to come and pick up the paint and who's going to do the displays and everything like that. So to me, it just seems like, this is, I'll choose the bankers. They just left. So it's just like the bankers are having a fee and they're hiring the banker lobbyist to manage the fee, manage the program. And I just couldn't get behind that. So what this bill does right now is it takes out all statements about the fee. It just simply says there's a plan will be involved. Yes, whatever their plan is, they do need to bring it to DES to look it over and make sure that they're not doing anything that violates our state statutes in terms of the moving this paint, moving the product. Representative Cole at the end mentioned about the back part of the statute, which was the it was a liability section. Yeah, so it's on page 3, 149M7, liability and disclosure, and he was interpreting that means that they would not be held responsible if they screwed up with the paint. And no, that's not what that's about. What this is about is, because this is assessment that onto themselves, all the units have been, that in other states who have implemented this had a problem of they were I'm losing space in my mind. It was that they were working in cahoots with each other, and it was an antitrust statute. And so that this paragraph is simply saying is that no, there's no intent, antitrust intent with enabling this legislation. And that's really probably why we need to pass it in the first place, so we can let them do that without having to have that lawsuit. But at the same time, it does not change any enforcement in terms of the misuse of the paint, in terms of they make a
Where
mess.
does it give them
and
the
they're still
ability to
responsible
not
for
get
that.
sued about the
They can be
antitrust?
sued if they, drop a paint truck in the middle of the road, or they had some kind of
No,
problem.
you were mentioning where, I can't follow where it said that it gives the liability of, where is that?
Okay, so I'm looking right now on page 3,
Yeah, where?
down at the bottom of the page 3,
Oh,
Liability.
M7 liability and disclosure.
okay. That's the one I was caring about, which is really all they wanted.
Right, well, and really, as much as Representative Cole was concerned about what the intent of that was, once that was clarified, that no, this is only about the antitrust because they're in cahoots with hitting themselves up for this fee, so that it exempts them from that. Take the mic.
Did you review this with any of the folks on who were putting this bill
Oh,
forward? to
yes,
find
so
out-
DES has looked it over. They're happy.
Okay,
And I guess
Representative
we got members of the paint
sitting right
who
here.
I guess are happy, right? We're all happy? Okay. Let's put it this way. They're not finding anything offensive at this point about it, right? As much as you don't like the fact that, we've done it this way, but that this is what we do here in New Hampshire. Oh, right, okay, that's right, right. Okay, yes.
So this is basically a silent fee.
Um,
Oh, don't bring that up.
Okay.
So in terms of what I
Okay,
would call.
I'll just kind of put it.
Take it
Okay,
back.
I don't see the way I look at it differently. I look at it, this is a business expense related to being in the paint manufacturing business, that you have some responsibility to what happens to the unused paint. And so therefore, really, it's their cost of goods sold. And so if the IRS asks me, I would say that cost is not a revenue to them or a revenue to the entity that they, which I assume is a nonprofit anyways, but that their lobbyist group who's running this thing, but that this is a cost to them and it should be on their books. Thank you.
I want to make sure I understand this. RSA 356 is an antitrust
Correct.
law.
Yes.
And if I read my English correctly, a manufacturer or representative organization implementing or participating in a program shall be exempt from RSA 356.
Right. And that is
So they
antitrust.
can do all these bad things.
No, it's or participating in the program, but it's not, that it goes on to say that they still are responsible for any messes or any cleanups and that they're accountable for any of those problems. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I would,
identify yourself.
For the record, Jonathan Melanson with Demers, Praisall, and Thomas, representing the American Coatings Association. I think to Representative Cole's point that he brought up last work session, and to just clarify, under the definition section on page 1, we define environmentally sound management practices, and I think that's where, this spells out anybody operating under this program, needs to do so responsibly, make sure that there's not any messes being made and so forth. So I just wanted to highlight that for.
Right. And you can see,
consideration.
and the appropriate environmental liability coverage. That's
on
been
page 1.
on page 1 in red. The only red
Appropriate
thing you see there
environmental-
has been deleted.
Okay, so if for whatever reason somebody makes a mistake and pollutes or something nefarious, there is going to be a penalty associated with this behavior.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they haven't, followed the practice, and that's another reason why, you have the plan that would be submitted to the Department of Environmental Services so that they have that oversight as well to make sure that it's all being
So
done.
DES will get a crack at exactly what's going on.
You've seen this? Yeah. Right. Is this the one, I assume they mailed it to you. But we haven't had the amendment drawn up yet because obviously this happened on Friday. Okay. Okay. So the sponsor's okay with this. Okay, we have nobody opposed to it, and we do have someone from the department, so. And you want to make a comment, just you're fine. You're all good. You're all good. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Who would like to make the motion on this bill? Okay. Representative Spear. And Second, McAleer. We don't have an amendment number yet. On proposed amendment. Okay. So this is a straw vote because we don't actually have the amendment in hand. It's a straw vote.
I need it.
So, no, I mean, theoretically, as a chair, I can just take up the amendment in our exec session and say that this committee and that, but we would make sure that the language is exactly what we think it is, so. Okay, so this is a straw vote. All those in favors, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Yeah. Leave it at that. Okay. Well, yeah, well,
can
let's
straw
do
vote.
straw vote, yeah. The straw vote is on the amendment, and then when the full committee takes it up. I mean, there are a lot of committees that they don't even have a subcommittee vote. They just take it and run with it, but it is true that I have a little more rules here. Okay, moving right along. That's it for business. And,
15 minutes.
okay, 15 minutes. Okay, did I? Okay, we'll open up the subcommittee work session here in our Liquor is Quicker committee. And so we have, is cannabis the first one up?
I got everybody.
Okay. So we're going to retain, right? I'm not even sure how, is that a motion on here? Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. All right. Representative Sullivan, seconded by Petusek. Moves to retain. Okay, so who do I have here, hon? Petusek. Who else is on this now?
There you go. You got the whole list.
Walsh is here.
Post.
Burrows is here.
Hunt, Burrows, Sullivan, and Spear.
Here. And Post is not here. So Representative Ammon will sit in for her. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I got
So how-
7.
Who's the 7? What am I missing?
Petusik, Walsh, Ammon, Hunt, Burrows, Sullivan, Spear.
Oh, I didn't see this. Okay. Okay, so any discussion on retaining Mr. Cannabis? All right, no discussion. All those in favor, say aye. And
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
7-0.
7 today. Okay. Okay, last but not least.
276. Ah,
The tavern license, yeah. So, I mean, it can be on your name, you can make the motion. You know, just, this is, unfortunately, the amendment, I have not had gone up because since we just dropped it on Friday and holiday and whatnot. Mike, did you get from the commission? Since they wrote it, but we can certainly give them so they can. It's their, this is their handwriting. Okay. So. As you know, I've been around a long time, and I was talking to Josh Rogers. For you Republicans might not know who he is, but he is the reporter for Nashville Public Radio, New Hampshire Public Radio, and his mother actually, we see her all the time on health insurance issues. At any rate, I was telling him that we were planning on doing this bill, and he says, you know, we were up in Vermont. We couldn't get in because we had our teenage daughter with me. And I said, what is that? He says, well, because if you're under 21, you're barred from going into a tavern in Vermont. So I can only assume that's where you got this language, or you came up with this idea to, that you need to come up and speak, sorry.
Hello, Danielle Elston, Deputy Chief, New Hampshire Liquor Enforcement. We actually didn't pull this language from any mirroring states. The reason we did 21 plus is there's no food. There's only alcohol.
There would be no reason for them to come in. Maybe they want to drink a Coke.
So cocktail lounges right now at 9 or cocktail lounges in general, throughout the state are 18 plus unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or adult spouse. So one of the concerns with this is This doesn't limit right now any type of live entertainment or anything like that. So while you have a tavern license that might run as a bar, the downside of this license is it also creates nightclubs, larger dance establishments, late night establishments, which is where the age restriction came in.
Right, geez, I'm sorry. I don't know how my watch learned how to do that. Okay, so right now because it was like restaurants can close the food at 9, and they have the cocktail license,
Correct.
but they're not. They don't bar anybody who's. You're saying they bar anybody who's under 18?
So by statute, it's no one can be in there unless under 18, unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or adult spouse.
Right.
What we have seen as a general business practice throughout the industry is that once they close the kitchen, because many of the cocktail lounges can close the kitchen at 9 and become a just serve alcohol. The general business practice there is they become a 21 plus facility.
But it's not by statute.
Not by statute, no.
Not by
However, there are there are liquor licenses where they are 21 plus.
Okay. Okay. Anybody?
Question.
Yes.
How do we get the notion of it being an optional kind of thing for a town?
Well, basically, realizing that there was AA started out. We had this other bill that we're about to get, which is these social districts. And in that social districts, I'm starting reading this whole piece about how that it's a local town vote to create that. And I said, well, okay, if we're going to allow that to be a town vote, this particular issue, I've always said that the opposition to no food requirements was restaurant and hospitality industry and law enforcement. Because to the law enforcement, alcohol only is just a magnet for trouble. All right. When you look at the problems we've had with these knife fights and, whatever that goes on outside a bar, it's usually after 9 o'clock
Yeah.
when those things occur. Okay. And so my theory would be is that no selectman in their right mind would ever think this is a good idea. However, if we're going to get into the habit of start enabling cities and towns to do things that they think is good. I mean, remember the premise of the bill was that Claremont thought that this would be good as a magnet to make people want to live in Claremont. So maybe
What are you saying? So if I live in a town and the town really doesn't want a tavern in there,
then they never take the vote and it'll never happen.
oh, it is still optional.
It is totally not. I wouldn't call it option. I mean, you can call it an option. I'm
Enabling.
telling it's enabling, but the town has to vote for it.
Where are the words that say that?
Okay, so if you look under RSA 663:5, 1B, C, and D. Is that right?
66.
So I can clarify this a little bit. Yep, so that's standard language in all of our statutes right now pertaining to any license. So that's, we do still have, I think we're down to 2 dry communities? Two dry communities in the state itself. So that's allowing licensed alcohol establishments to be in the town. Under 541A, we are required to notify the town of any licensed establishment that has applied for a liquor license in their municipality or city. They can then submit any data, views, concerns, objections to that license being issued to the commission, and then there's a hearings process for that. This also specifically allows the city or town to limit the number of tavern licenses within that municipality if they so choose. So they could say, yes, we'll allow a tavern license, but the town or municipality can decide to limit that.
There was some, I'm sorry, there was something you just said. Now, in the first bullet, I guess I1, the commission may issue a tavern license in any town to which as voted except, to accept the
That's
provisions of.
to have liquor licenses in the town, in general.
Oh, that's in general.
That's in general. Correct. Correct. And that's standard language. If you were to look at Title 13 in any of the statutes, it would say a cocktail lounge license will be issued, or that specific license will be issued if that city or town allows.
So this is
alcohol
more than
establishments.
enabling. It's, the town has to pay attention and find out that somebody has actually applied, and it's after the fact that they find out that somebody's applied.
That
and
they've applied, yes.
I'm not gonna vote for this.
We're doing that now.
In our town, it'll take forever before anybody finds out. That thing will go up and it'll be active before anybody has a chance to stop it.
So we do that now. So every application that comes in, the township's getting notification from us asking for any objections or support for the establishment. So this, we're looking at this as if this was accepted and this becomes law, that business doesn't change for us. We're doing it now.
No, I understand.
She's concerned that the tavern license should not be issued unless the town has made this affirmative motion, affirmative vote.
Mhm.
So we need language in this bill that says that. And now, is that in the social district bill? Because I was just gonna lift the language from the social
It could
district
be.
bill and you talked me out of it.
It could be.
Okay. All right. The good news is this bill is not an early bill, so we have time to continue to work on this. Okay?
Mhm.
So, but at this point, we know one thing that needs to be added to it is that the license cannot be issued until the town has had that affirmative vote.
Yeah. I think I think the social districts is more that the town sets what the social district is before the licenses are issued.
So there was a process there where
There was a process,
again,
but
they're
it was
making
to
it-
set
Right.
what the area was, any
And
stipulations
that wasn't
on them.
necessarily a vote of the town, that was just by the city.
However they do it. Every
select-
city does that differently.
Selectmen or the city council.
Yeah, I mean,
So in other words, in my town, there would be 3 selectmen who would make. it.
correct. But
So 2 out of the 3. would make-
Portsmouth, for example, has a liquor board, has a specific board
They
that,
actually have a liquor board.
that votes and makes decisions. So every municipality does it differently.
Okay.
I'm concerned about point 6. I just think that opens the door for corruption. A select board member says, "Oh, my friend wants a license. I'm going to give it to him, and then I'm going to make sure there's no more, so there's no more competition." So I don't want to create we always say it, the New York City taxi cab medallion situation. That's why I fought the marijuana stuff, and that's why I would fight this one. So could we remove that part of it? Like if the town is going to opt into this, I don't think we should opt into it and then say, oh, but they get to decide there'll be 1 or 2 favored
Well,
people.
I think that's what we're replacing the other language with. That line would be that the town would do the affirmative, and then you could let
Okay.
them in.
Right, so for all intents and purposes, that particular language is being removed, but it'll say instead, right, and the number 1 at the bottom, obviously.
So there wouldn't be like a potential cap on licenses, but.
No,
once the
we don't
town's
want,
approved.
we don't want that.
We don't want that, yeah.
We don't want that, that's not our way.
Well, I don't know, Cape Coast, if you're not aware of other
We
things, John.
tried to do it for cannabis and we had our head handed to
You
us.
sure did.
All 4 votes,
Hey,
all 4 votes of that one.
I'm a good orator. I convinced those 4 people.
You could, yeah, right. But you made sure that we'll never have marijuana in the state for who knows how long.
And no corruption, hopefully.
You looked that gift horse in the mouth and said, no, thank you.
I don't regret it, all right?
Right, see that?
It had some bad teeth, that gift horse.
Okay, is there anything else in here that anybody has a problem with? No person should be allowed in the allowed in the tavern license. Yeah, that's what we're calling them, a tavern license.
And
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if
You
I
can change
can,
it to premise. Yeah.
if I can just reiterate from our previous testimony, we have not changed our opinion on.
You are
on
opposed to
this.
this bill.
We are.
No, that's important. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you reminded us.
Not so much opposed, just that we believe food needs to be part of the mix in serving alcohol in this state.
So, Chris, in my research, she shot in the Roman numeral 1, the 2 was extraneous. The commission may issue a tavern license. Which voted. Well, that's where, actually, you got it right. If you just write in there, affirmative vote from any town.
If the application should go to the town gets to say first before the license is issued. The
Well,
town gets to say it before the license.
That's sort of a chicken and the egg because we don't know they exist.
That is the process now. So right now they apply. They apply for the license. They cannot get the license without town approval. Right now, in any license, whether it be a combination or a restaurant or,
Yeah, any preference. Yeah, yeah.
If the town is sitting on it, however long they sit on it, no license is issued.
no, it's a I shouldn't say an approval, it's a no objection from the town. So
They're given a time frame.
they're
right.
given a time frame where
So-
they can submit an objection. Some of them do submit approvals. But there's a time frame to say, if you object within, right now it's
Right.
15
So this
days
is
if
a
you-
waiver from that process, because this is saying is, no, we're not waiting, for there to hear if you have not having a problem with it, is that you have to make affirmative
We
vote.
can clean the language up
Clean
so
that
that it would,
And then,
that
so
they have to
that-
have
and
actually
then-
approval from the town.
Right,
The 663.5 is just the town accepting that they'll allow alcohol licensed establishments in general. Doesn't say
Right.
what kind, what type, right? That's standardized language throughout Title 13. The town has to
Right.
accept that they have to not be a dry community. So we can't issue a license per statute if the town is voted to be a dry community.
anyways.
Anyways,
Right, right. So that's
doesn't matter who
notwithstanding
applies.
that, this is
Correct.
the next, this
So-
is the next, right,
So
okay.
that first one is,
So
and
you
that,
might want to
again,
renumber things here a little.
and that's standard language. But what it sounds like we're looking to add is that the town has to either approve the tavern or
Have an-
vote to have a tavern license,
Have an affirmative vote by the town.
affirmative vote.
Has to be affirmative vote for
Okay.
the town before the license is issued.
And if there is opposition, that triggers due process. That'll trigger a hearing.
Right now.
No, it
Right
would
now.
just put,
Right now.
it would have shut down the conversation.
Right.
You would shut down the conversation of being a tavern license.
Right now.
Yeah.
So you need to,
You're not. There's two processes. So right now, if the town objects, there's a hearings process for the licensee to go through within that municipality in front of the hearings officer for the commission, where people can submit all their in favor of or opposed to. That's it right now. This sounds like this would just be, there's an approval, you're going to allow a tavern license or not. So it doesn't, if the town votes
If there's
against it,
approval, if the town votes for it, that means that hearing process doesn't occur because then now the town has actually voted to approve it. So in other words, there's a waiver from that statute,
well,
that particular requirement.
no, I think you have to do this in two ways. The town has to allow the tavern license applications to go in,
Right.
but there's still the process on the application itself, who
Right.
the licensees are, who the operators are.
Right.
So that would still
Well, to
be
me, the application should say right on the application, the town, please include the town's vote, that they voted for it. It should just be, please report,
Mm-hmm.
when was the date and when the town voted for it?
Okay.
That's what you should do. Just be on the application. Because you would ignore the application if they don't fill in that
If
blank.
they don't have it.
You follow me there?
No.
Okay, in other words, see, okay, the whole process is, right now, is if you want to get a liquor license, you download the form and you fill it out and you submit it to the commission. The commission does not just approve it because you submitted the form. They then have a couple of steps they go through. And one of them is, do you have your liability insurance? That we're going to send a letter out to your town? And what's the time frame that the town has to respond?
Right now, it's 15 days.
Okay, so within 15 days, the town has to say, we have a problem. If the town doesn't say they don't have a problem, then the liquor commission just checked it off. That's the process now for all our license, for a liquor license. What we're doing is a little bit different with this one. With this one is on that application, it needs to say, has the town voted for this license, and what was the date they made that positive affirmative vote? They're going to read it when they see the form. The form will have it on there and say what was when the town affirmed it. The town, if the town voted no, then if
it's
they
no.
submit that application, the liquor commission would say, no, you're rejected because you did not check off the box that the town voted for. It won't happen.
I mean, it makes sense, but it seems.
It's all about checking the box. In
All
other
I
words,
wanna do is
when
have
you
a
when
civil
you
form
fill
say
when
no,
you
and
fill
what
out a
happens?
form with getting any license and permits and stuff, there are going to be a bunch of boxes you have to check. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so the check is for the commission to say, okay, we got this, we got that. You submitted this, you submitted that. That one of those items is going to be, did the town, because one of the items
Oh, so
is
the
that
liquor commission checks.
the liquor commission checks the box, correct. So one of the other questions is that when it asks the town, they can say to the town, you have a problem about where the location is. Because the tavern is putting in the location, right? Don't you guys, one of the questions you're asking the town is not just, you have any objections. What objections may you have? Well, one of them would be, well, we don't like it that's right next to the school. Or we don't like it because, it's next to a church. Or we don't like it, because it's in our, it violates our zoning. Okay, can be any one of those things the town can object to. Then they have that hearing. And in that hearing, if the town will come up and make a convincing argument of why they don't want it in that area, in that zone, then the commission will not check that box, and the application will be rejected.
About, I don't know, 2 months ago, when it was a little warmer out, we had a shootout. We had a shootout in Nashville in front of a bar.
Yes.
And 2 people, I think, were shot, and I don't know, I think one woman was killed. And that bar, I don't know what, I mean, I've seen it every single day, and it was a messy place to begin with. I don't know how they were allowed to stay in business, but they did. It's closed now. It's boarded up. I want to see the town be much more proactive about stopping this, as opposed to just checking a little box. If they have not proactively said, I want a tavern,
Correct.
if they have not said it,
Correct.
then no taverns. That's the
I-
end of it.
Make sure this is question number 1. Right off
So-
the top, has the town voted to affirmatively approve it?
I'm
It has
wondering,
to be
uh,
Number 1
I think Keno is.
has the same thing. That's right.
Has a similar thing where the town
Oh, yeah.
the town, but it had to be done in a town meeting.
Town meeting.
Formally
exactly.
in the town, they had to accept in the
Had
town
to be on
meeting.
the town
Are they
warrant.
going to allow?
Yeah, no,
Keno?
I lift that language.
We can do it similar to
That's
that.
the lift that language. That's perfect. Keno is definitely a good example because my town kept voting against it. Keith next, then Representative Walsh. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like we need an amendment that has that language, the enabling language, like the actual text that goes on the ballot
Yes.
in statute.
Like the Keno. Yeah,
Right,
exactly. And that's where I got it from when we do the social districts bill.
Okay.
Okay?
Really?
That, Representative Walsh. And Representative Burrows.
Okay, maybe this is more of a would you believe, but I just had to do a permit, which was a unbelievable process for a retaining wall, which involves DES. And DES, this is for you, Carrie.
listening.
DES will not process, I mean, there's tons that had to be filled out by the applicant, but they were specifically looking for the signature of the town clerk and the conservation commissioner. So, I mean, that can be part of the process.
I bet you that is in the Keno language. It has to be some,
Yeah, we have, there's two processes right now. So for a general license, that's where there's no objection from the town. The town has the ability to respond. We give them the opportunity to respond if they, again,
heard
some do,
nothing.
some don't.
Right.
There's other types of licenses, such as a catering license for a catering event or a one-day event, where you need actual signatures from the fire department, the chief of police, the town selectman, things, specific signatures saying you're allowed to have this event. Again, some of them are in the town square or, they're in public places that affect the town. So there's two processes to that. It sounds though like what they're looking for this is rather than the process for the specific license would still apply, but you can only apply for the tavern license in the town if the town has voted to allow tavern license applications to be submitted. It still doesn't, there's still the general application process, which is reviewing, the applicants, that would still apply, but the town would have to vote. It sounds like the language preferred is that, similar to Keno, the town would have to vote that they would allow
So
a
the-
tavern license to apply.
Right, so the default is no tavern, and they have to apply to get a tavern.
The town would have to vote to allow tavern license applications to be
place.
accepted. And
Yeah.
then the applicant itself would have to apply, and then they would go through the normal application process.
That would be great if you can write that up.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
So we have statutory language in this new amendment. Who proposes that to go onto the ballot? Can it be petitioned by the members of the town? Is that,
yeah, any warrant article can be by petition, 10
Okay.
people.
so it's not just up to the select board to decide?
No,
Or the
no,
city
that-
council, or
I
whatever?
mean, unless, if they want, they can find 10 signatures, they can, I mean, I assume they have authority to put things in the warrant, but like the planning board, I know does things. The planning board has to be a vote of the planning board to put warrant articles on. So. Representative Burrows.
Thank you. This may fall into the category of dumb idea, but she already thinks it is. But have ever been anything like on the applications for a license that say, taverns are encouraged to have like bar food, like popcorn or something, because, just a statistic about what alcohol does to you without food?
Yeah, we could put that language on at this point, this doesn't exist, so you could put any language on there.
Is that make sense, or will it not do anything?
I think it's at the end of the day, it's the business plan.
But I assume that they're liable if somebody goes out and crashes their car up.
Yeah,
after-
just like any other
Yeah,
licensed
yeah, yeah.
establishment, yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that to get one of these tavern licenses in Vermont or Massachusetts, that the liability insurance is higher. But I mean, you're balancing that off with, the fact that you don't have the food, the costs of the food. So and that was Representative Sullivan's argument right at the beginning ago, was that, you want to streamline, make it easy to just open up one of these things. So, but we never discussed the actual license fee.
Of course, thank you. As you and I have spoken, Mr. Chairman, this arose from my predecessors years ago.
Yes.
And the deterrent was a pretty hefty
Fee.
fee. I think at the end of the day, establishments such as this that don't have food along with them bring other dynamics to them, some of which have been mentioned today. It takes a larger enforcement effort, which is of course
That's not my
equal
car.
equal to fees that are being charged for a license type. So I haven't researched the background of those fees back in the day, but it was a $10,000.
I thought it was, as the
license
sponsor
fee.
of the bill, I think
Um,
it was 10 grand.
But I think
Was it
at the end
15?
of the day, our largest fee,
25, no, that's what it started out. I don't think it was
Five.
that high.
our
Mike said
largest fee right now is $12.80, and the amount of effort that would be put into enforcement would for lack of a better term, would bury that number.
1280 would not be
Yeah.
appropriate.
Mhm.
That's our highest fee now. That
Cocktail lounge.
just shows you how easy it is to get a liquor license in New Hampshire. It's only $12.80. Okay. Plus a business plan. So you don't have a number yet? Or
We don't have a number right now. We'll have Aiden work. Aiden's actually listening to us right now, so we can have him.
Hi,
look
Aiden.
into
Couldn't you
it.
do just some multiple of that fee? I mean, that seems like a reasonable way to do it, and then it would adjust over time. If you guys raised one, it would automatically go up
We
by
don't
two
like
times.
we don't like raising and lowering fees. We like
I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just saying if for some point in the future somebody decides they need to raise the fee and this is a multiple of the highest fee, then it would go up accordingly.
right. So
I'm
it'd
not
be a
saying, I'm not
multiple-
advocating for raising fees. Let me
You're
be
saying
very
the
clear.
multiple of the 1280. You're saying that the answer
Yeah, that's
the
what I'm
answer should
saying.
be 4 or 5 times the 1280.
I mean, I don't know what the amount should be, but I'm saying that might be a good way to do it.
Okay, you got that, Aiden?
I mean, I don't know. That's just an idea.
Let's
Let's
say
not make it so punitive that people can't like get in.
so. We made it 1280 times 5. Well, if you want to get back to where we were before,
But we don't even need to use that as a benchmark. I mean, we're not trying to like kill this before it gets out of the gate, are we? Or maybe we are. That's probably what people are actually trying to do. I stand corrected.
Well, just
That's probably what
we
everybody
ju-
but me wants.
Have
to do.
after saying what I have just said, we now have the third leg has just arrived in the room, the chief of police, and I assume is in opposition to this amendment. If you know what it is, Beth? So, yeah, no, I'm assuming, okay.
And just
Um,
for informational purposes, like our cigar bars right now are very similar, other than they have introduced cigar smoking in the establishment.
Right.
They don't have food.
And how much is there?
They are some of our, 1280.
They're 1280s.
But at the same time, the amount of effort that the municipal jurisdictions put into safety efforts, let's call them, life safety efforts, they are some of the establishments that you hear on the news quite often.
So, perfect example that 1280 is really not the right number if you remove food.
I'm sure and I won't speak on their behalf, but I'm sure on the chief's point of view, they are usually the first responders to these incidents, that it looks as if it's an unfunded mandate.
All right, let's go with 640. 6,400. That's a 5-time.
That works. 5 times 1280.
I'll let the Senate. I mean, I think the Senate's going to kill this bill anyways. But well, actually not, because all the senators, well, the members of the Senate Commerce Committee are kind of excited about it, but some of them are. So at any rate, so we'll do 640.
And I just make one more comment.
Yeah.
This was the best solution to the previous bill that was submitted that eliminated food. as you know, I'm a bit of a technical person when it comes to the liquor statutes. There were some concerns with that because it didn't eliminate food requirements for other licensed establishments.
Oh,
By
yeah, it was broad.
by definition, you still had to have a kitchen, but you didn't have to have food. So so this was kind of, if you're going to eliminate food, this is the cleanest way
is a better
for
way to do it,
us in
yes.
terms of licensing and enforcement to do it.
Any other comments? Yeah, Representative Walls?
Yeah, I have a question. So if, in theory, if this tavern existed, if they wanted to serve food, could they?
Yes. They could,
Okay,
they
okay.
could certainly serve it. There's no barring them from serving food.
Barring, nice, cute.
They still have to, they would still have to have their, their board of the, housing, when is usually, in each town, they have a health officer. The health officer that would have some, weighing in on what the kitchen's supposed to look like. And if they did put it in a kitchen, then they've got to comply with the rules about multiple sinks and refrigerators that have
Disposal.
thermostats in them okay, great. And yes, you are opposed to this amendment, but you're willing to help me out in getting it drafted. Okay, Mike, you want to weigh in?
Doesn't like it anyway. Mikey doesn't like this.
He doesn't
I'm
like,
not sure what you'd like me to say other than, no, thank you.
just emphasize why you suspect your members will,
So this,
when the cities and towns take this up, you will
yeah,
suspect your
I
members will
think,
argue against it.
obviously the cities and towns weighing in is better than just eliminating food requirements. So certainly can get on, appreciate that. We still don't like it as a concept. And I think frankly, the real issue for us would be that, $6,400 is not enough of a licensing fee for what this is going to require of local law enforcement plus the liquor commission, et cetera. I think the original tavern bill, going back to your comment earlier, I think it started at 25,000. It might have come down during the whole delivery process, but I think it was at $25,000. And frankly, I think it should be more than that. But that's just my personal opinion. I haven't talked to anybody about it yet because I just saw this for the first time today. So that said, I think this is just asking for trouble. And then there will be municipalities that will likely adopt it. And I can't see much good coming of it, frankly. Not sure what else I could do to change your mind, but anyway,
We just want to get you on record.
got it.
Okay,
All set.
thank
Thanks.
you. Beth, you want to, you're not okay with the bill because you're okay with the commission's position. Okay, the only one other person in the room, and I'm sure you don't care. Right. Right. And like I said, you weren't here, but I would assume that no town would vote to this in their, well, you never know. There's always going to be some small town that, but I would think that the small, the law enforcement, the chief would point out, you're just inviting, riffraff. And my personal feeling is that I've never seen a classy one. I mean, to me, they're all hole in the walls.
But we are gonna change it so that the town has to allow taverns before they can even apply.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So, okay, this bill is not an early bill, so I just wanted to have this hearing because we had originally taken action in the subcommittee had voted on it before, but it felt like unfinished business. So, anybody else? Any other comments? No, no fun. Right. What? So like, a knife fight is much more fun to have, have a knife fight out front? Right, right. Well, no, they're all happening after 9 with the food. The food's been shut off. Right. So if we should repeal that and say, no, you got to serve food all the way through.
The idea that I think you missed that. They stop serving food, so people now become violent. I mean, you have like these social clubs like the Eagles or the VFWs, and guess what? Like, it's the type of people who go to them, or people like John, who are looking at night fights, not necessarily 25-year-olds. Like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the VFW. Yes, I agree with you. When I go in the VFW, I don't see too many young people. That is true.
Right, exactly. So like, we all know the best predictor of crime is age. It's not whether or not there's food, because no food being served at the VFW. It's the clientele who go to the VFW that prevent them from being booked night. Right. So like, also like, these night fights happen. I mean, I'm not saying that like there isn't crime. There is crime.
Is your mic on? Make sure we get this all recorded.
Yes, I'm not saying that there isn't crime with these things. I just think it's a lot of like fear mongering, and I've lived in places where there isn't like a night fight every single night because people are out at a bar that doesn't sell food. I mean, I don't know. We do know, if you look at the data, and I have looked at the data, and I briefly explored writing my thesis in grad school on crime related to these topics, and it was just a while ago, granted, but like the biggest predictor of crime is age. It's somebody in their 20s is far more likely to be a criminal than somebody in their 70s or 80s or 40s like me, So it's like, so the idea that like, oh, all we have to do is slap a food requirement on and crime just falls, it's just not entirely true. You got to be able to tease out those two differences. And I think that there's a lot of fear mongering going on around these things. And I know I'm not making much headway in convincing people of that, and that's okay. I'm glad with this compromise, and maybe we'll see a few towns do it, and maybe it leads to something else. But it is frustrating when I listen to people just say, "Oh my God, the world is going to end. We should all be terrified to exist in society more because we no longer have food requirements or whatever." And that's just the part that frustrates me when I hear these arguments.
Representative Burrows.
I actually, the knives or guns aren't what concerns me, is people getting in their cars without food in their system.
But again, people don't have to eat food. Like you're making an assumption built into that argument that when somebody goes out, they're going out to eat primarily and not drink. If somebody is going out to be social and drink, then that is their primary goal. And the mere fact that there's food there, they may have already eaten before they showed up. I mean, a lot of people do that. They eat and then they go out to drinks and to be socialized. Like, there's two different things going on. And the thing you don't like is the idea that people are out there drinking irresponsibly, over-consuming and making bad decisions, whether it's knife fights or drunk driving. Those are all bad things that are all outlawed that we shouldn't encourage, right? The idea that the magic bullet to solve those problems is to simply just have food, I think, is just a bit naive. And that's my argument on it all.
Yeah, I have to say, I disagree that that's the magic bullet. What I personally believe, because we have the same food requirement when it comes to off-premise licensees, we haven't even talked about that. Okay, we had in the past, we had a certain representative who kept insisting that Spam was on the shelves in the stores, and I failed to find Spam when I went and did convenience store checks. So, but I think going back to when, and I always say I love to have been in the room in 1937 when after the prohibition was repealed and how they decided to come up with the system we came up with. I think it was more about making sure that the people who were in the business of selling alcohol were fine, upstanding citizens and credible, because that to them it was all about Al Capone and speakeasies and on and on and on. And I think that was what was really bothering, because they weren't so much worried about drunk driving back then, because cars couldn't go very fast. And so I think that they were trying intentionally to, like I said, when it came to the off-premise licensees, they really wanted to make sure that every town's little IGA, the grocer, the village grocer, was the one who got the liquor license, because that they have an investment. They're going to be competent. They're going to be responsible, and they would be making sure that they weren't serving drunks, and they weren't. And I think the same thing when it goes to restaurants is if you don't have that food requirement. And I have to say, all the VFWs do have kitchens. I mean, I've never been in a VFW that didn't have a kitchen, but the issue for them, in terms of how they got the waiver, well, they also had the smoking waiver. We didn't ban them from smoking, but I think that when it comes to any general establishment, and really refers back to my comment that the ones I know of in Massachusetts that I've been to over the years, are hole in the walls, is that how financially responsible, how much skin do they have to make sure that they really are carding people, they really are making sure they're not over serving. And if you have a restaurant, now you have a much larger investment. You have a lot more. But to me, a tavern, you could just take any hole in the wall property. There could have been a dry cleaner, it could have been anything, and you throw a bunch of tables and chairs and make your own bar, or you can buy one off an Amazon, and bada bing, bada boom, and now you're in the liquor business. So if you lose your liquor license because you've had 3 incidents or whatever, or somebody dies and they shut you down, whatever, all those fines, I don't care. I don't have that much investment into this property, and that's my concern.
And I appreciate that, John, because that's a better argument than all the other arguments we've heard.
Good.
So I appreciate that. And I mean, I think that maybe the higher licensing, and licensing is annual, right? You got to pay that every year.
Yes.
Yeah, so the higher licensing, and there's still some investment. So I think there's some investment. I mean, certainly if somebody is trying to start off, starting a new bar, they might be able to do it on the cheap, but they're still going to be in it for a 5-figure number. It's not like it's free money. And
That's why I was my multiplier of 5
well, yeah,
times.
and I'm saying even ignoring that for a second, that's an important part of it. But I'm saying if I wanted to go start up a bar tomorrow, and my town approved this, I mean, I would have to find I'd have a minimum, a lease of a year that I have to pay. I'd be in it for 5 figures, right? It's not trivial amount.
You got
amounts of
some
money.
investment.
Yeah. It's not a trivial amount of money, and certainly if I acted irresponsibly and liquor shut me down in 6 months, I'm out 5 figures. Well, that's a lot of money for most people. So I do think that your point is a really good one. I think the best one I've heard yet. But I do think that there's some level of that here. It doesn't require a 6-figure investment the way a restaurant does to get there. I still think people have an incentive to be
Fair enough.
good stewards.
But I think that's the food thing. I already said that if the town wanted it, fine, knock yourself out. But I do think that the investment in what it takes to do food is the investment that keeps it straight.
That's my point.
Yeah, and even if I don't know, I just see these places in Nashua where we're having these, and it's not a knife fight; it was a freaking gunfight, and people were standing there.
So, Mike, did I just make your point, or did you have something else that you wanted to add? Yes, please. Come on up.
So I know the comment was made that, Claremont wants this because it's going to revive their downtown. And frankly, that is a stretch. Most smaller towns a restaurant is an anchor in these towns, right? This is where people go for their special occasions, their nights out, those kinds of things. So it has a much broader appeal. This is where an instance where you close the kitchen at 9 o'clock and you might turn into a nightclub or something to appeal to a younger audience. This would work in that kind of a scenario. But if anyone thinks that somebody's going to open a nightclub in downtown Claremont's going to change their economic, it's just not. That's not how the industry works. Could they make a little bit of money? Sure, but there's not enough people that live in the area to make this whole thing sustainable. That's why they're having the problem. It's not really because of the licensing structure, if that makes sense. Anyways.
Would you believe, though, this might make an option where somebody doesn't want to be in the liquor business and they can actually have somebody who opens up a small tavern license, and then somebody has like a pizza shop next door and they don't want to be together, but they mutually work well together. And I have seen that. You go to Bozeman, Montana, and there are bars that don't sell anything but alcohol. And then in the same building, in a different, right next door, there's the Pita Pit, which opened up when I was in college there. And there's also a Tarantino's Pizza that had opened up while I was there. And so sometimes having more freedom will give entrepreneurs different opportunities to figure out where their niche is going to be. And I feel like that's the part that maybe you're discounting in your argument.
Well, but I think the point that I made in my original testimony is that you're essentially taking the profitable piece. So the pizza joint's probably selling a few beers with pizzas, whatever to go.
They're not selling the beer, they're sending you next door.
I understand that.
There's
in
an
that scenario.
establishment I've
But-
just been
but-
where.
But what
they-
I'm suggesting is that the pizza shop right now in New Hampshire may actually be selling beers or whatever it might be. So now you're essentially saying that this business that was built on the business model where food was required, and let's just take a small restaurant, right? Just take the pizza thing out of it, small restaurant, whatever it might be. It has a small percentage of its business that is probably alcohol, which is very profitable business for them. And now you're going to allow somebody to open up next door for much lower overhead, basically free, and they're essentially going to steal that business from them. And then now this business is no longer viable. So now you've essentially put somebody who has already put their family's equity and livelihood and everything else, and you put them in a very precarious position. And the one last question that I have for this discussion is, if you have a license of this type, what is it to prevent this license type from opening at 11 o'clock at night and running till 1 in the morning? Could run for 2 or 3 hours
Correct.
total time.
Correct.
So it has almost no labor. It's just moving booze through the door. And frankly, that's when the worst of decisions are made. And it leads to pre-gaming and all the other fun things that we hear about. Frankly, I think we're just asking for problems.
And that's why we're gonna charge the extra fee, because we'll have a liquor commission.
That's not even gonna
enforcement-
cover the gas for the
enforcement camped
first
out
responders
out
to get to
there
the
and
establishment.
watching drunks enter the establishment. And
That won't cover the gas that the first responders are gonna have to come to the first gunfight, not to mention
Right.
the second and the third
no,
gunfight.
we just want our
Or night fight, or
our
whatever it is.
enforcement division to take care of this. Okay, and local
Thanks for
police,
listening.
and that's why, and local police. And that's why I'm saying the local police would say to the selectmen or to, the warrant, they'd say, please do not vote this as,
Well,
if
and
you think it's bad enough for, just pulling over people on the highway all night long, but imagine if now we're not doing that, we're not getting the speeders, we're parked out in front of this watering hole.
Well, and at $6,400, is there a portion of that that's going to be shared with the city and town to cover their local enforcement? Because they're going to be the first call, right? They're going to be the first ones to respond to whatever the incident is.
Correct.
And how much of that's an unfunded mandate?
No, we're not mandating that.
I'm just asking a
They
question.
voted
I'm
for
asking
it.
a question.
That's why I did
Just
that.
asking a question.
I specifically, that particular problem, when I said, why the high fee and the really belongs to is cheap. Well, that's fine. Let's just have let the chiefs fight that at the town level. Let the police fight.
Beth will take care of it.
That's what Beth will do.
Thanks for listening.
All right. I think we've had a very lively discussion, good discussion here. And we'll end this subcommittee. That's it for today.